Hey there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to another Red Pill Religion podcast. Red Pill Religion, where amongst the things we say are the belief in the supernatural and the transcendent, healthy, rational, and evidence based. If you like the kind of work we're doing, please remember we've been censored many times. We're on our third or fourth YouTube channel, depending on how you count these things. We're still, but you will always find us on redpillreligion.com. So give us a like and a subscribe here and smack that notification bell. Tell your friends or enemies and help us build up our subscription base again. However, do remember if we disappear, you'll always find us on redpillreligion.com, where we're also doing a fundraiser and could really use your help. We're trying to raise $1,000 for the Freedom from Atheism Foundation, a group that's been doing great work fighting atheist bullies for almost 10 years now, I think, and also to upgrade our to us so that I can get a better mic and we can get out into better podcasting networks. So we're hoping to make $1,000. Links in the low bar. We'd love to see you. We would love your support. Thanks very much. Also, please find us on Dissenter, Gab, on your other social media under Red Pill Religion. So with all that out of the way, tonight's going to be a fairly free-form show. We are joined again by our friend Roughneck Riggs, also sometimes known as Jackson Sorton. Say hi to everybody, Riggs.
What's happening, hot stuff?
You're not my type, buddy. But I know that we got Memorial Day. This is the evening of Memorial Day. And I have always conflicted opinions when things like Memorial Day comes around. I have greatest respect for many of the men and women who have served. I don't actually hold with the modern tendency to put emphasis on the women who serve, since really the men doing most of the sacrificing and dying. It's men doing most of the sacrificing and dying. And
I would agree.
People should remember that more often. That said, there is no disrespect for women who go into the military and really many serve with honor and distinction. Some don't, but many serve with honor and distinction, and that deserves memory too. But it is mostly guys, especially who get in the worst combat roles, in the worst garbage, and most often killed, and most often have to see their buddies killed. And it does bother me a great deal, and I'll stop and let you talk in a minute. It bothers me a great deal that many of these men die in wars that they themselves can see are very questionable. You know, the U.S. military is currently engaged in fighting all over the world, pretty much 24/7. But that ultimately, I do not believe goes to the men and women who serve, especially the ones who, I think many of them go in with real idealistic ideas and then they come out jaded. I mean, that's even true of Jean Baptiste, who's on the Red Pill Religion team, and other veterans I've known. A lot of veterans, some of them are real proud of their service and the forces they fought in, some are not, but I know they should all be remembered. I don't know. What do you say to all that, Jackson?
Well, this is my message to veterans everywhere. I mean, be it in the United States, be it in other countries. I mean, to anybody who actually has the balls to voluntarily sign up for a service that they themselves could possibly die in. I mean, to be able to have the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to do right by my country, be it American forces or opposing forces otherwise. I mean, to be able to say to or to have the strength and the courage to be able to take that step. Obviously, you deserve to be remembered not only for your sacrifice, because you're spending time away from your family. I mean, you're putting that aside for service and duty. And to me, as a man, there is nothing more masculine and more manly than that. So as far as that is concerned, you have not only my greatest respect, but you also have my greatest thanks. You know, not only for your service, but you are indeed true heroes for that. And me personally, as somebody who was denied the opportunity to serve, even though I wanted to. Thank you guys so much for everything you do over there. As far as being called out to what would be considered, bullshit fights or bullshit wars, they're trained to essentially do exactly as they're told. I mean, you're not essentially, I can't necessarily hate on somebody or necessarily get mad at somebody for doing as they were trained and what they were told to do. Like, for example, like when the Vietnam veterans came back and they were getting spit on. I mean, that's some bullshit right there. I mean, if you were faced with the situations that they had to face there, you'd have done the exact same thing. I mean, we should have came back and we should have honored those people instead of coming in and treating them like shit. Pardon my language, treating them like garbage. We shouldn't have done that. I mean, ultimately, the VA hospital. I mean, I've heard of people coming in and waiting, weeks and months, for the care that they've obviously earned, through blood, sweat, tears, and determination, and of course, fear. I mean, that would be a terrifying situation to be, in a firefight like that. I mean, whether you're an engineer that worked on the helicopters or worked on those firearms, there were men that were using that equipment that were out there putting themselves on the line to get going. I mean, and every little piece in that entire operation matters. And you get all these people that are out there, like especially I've noticed with the left, that come in and hate on them for it. I mean, come on, like these guys are literally they're sacrificing everything for the things that we have, our liberty, our freedom of speech, even though the left is trying to take that away. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
and I
putting
don't think it's just
themselves
the
on the
left
line for
either.
that.
I think
Yeah,
there's plenty of people on the right who are doing it too, on the so-called right, especially the so-called neocon right. You're right about
right.
all that, and I just wanted to call out too. Not only do a lot of these guys get, they get promises made to them and then rescinded in things like their medical care. I mean, don't get me wrong, they do get some pretty okay benefits. They do get benefits for veterans benefits, and some of them are nice, but a lot get screwed in the medical system. A whole lot of them also wind up coming home and getting screwed by the family courts, or coming home and discovering that they've been screwed by the family courts. The amount of suicides of service members after they come home is huge, and it's not just PTSD, war trauma. It's often what they find when they get back. They can't get decent jobs. A shocking number of them wind up homeless. And by the way, there are homeless shelters for veterans. I do not disrespect female service members who really did their jobs. I've known some, and I really respect them, and they're good. But there's also this terrible thing going on with feminism, where there are shelters for homeless veteran women. Shelters
Oh
for homeless,
wow.
wait a minute, there's shelters for homeless veteran women, which there's nothing wrong with that in theory, except there aren't enough women to fill them that need them. And there are
Right.
homeless veteran men on the streets who can't use them, even though
Right.
they're empty.
Which is why I want to go ahead and direct the attention to the Wounded Warrior Project as well. I recently came across the Wounded Warrior Project's website, where they're actually doing double the donations, dollar for dollar, for Memorial Day right now. Me personally, as somebody who supports our troops and supports first responders and support, or I should say, supports heroes, these guys here, I mean, I cannot, under any circumstances, guys, if you can't donate to the show, at least donate here. I mean, your $10 is going to be $20 to help somebody who wasn't able to get that VA service that they're able to get, which is essentially the core of the Wounded Warrior Project. I mean, you have people that have lost limbs and stuff with IEDs and can't get the really really intense care that they need, and a lot of the prosthetic limbs that they need to be able to live their daily lives. I mean, dollar for dollar, up to $75,000, guys, is going to go to helping out these people who put their lives and themselves on the line for us. Whether you're left, whether you're left wing, whether you're right wing, no matter what. I mean, they came over here. We can all agree that they could use the help. I mean, their families could use the help, because the Wounded Warrior Project doesn't just help those veterans; it helps their families too. And I cannot, under any circumstances, stress this even more. If you can't support the show, at least support these guys. It's one
Yeah,
way of being able to give out your thanks, for their service, and two, it's a feel good thing, knowing that you're actually helping somebody else
like
out there
somebody who's
and
injured.
actually living the spirit of Memorial Day, aside from just grilling out.
I
I mean,
agree. I
like this.
agree, and I do support that. I I hate to interrupt, but yeah, I
No,
mean,
no,
I
go
feel
ahead.
a little guilty asking for money at the same time for the show. We really could use the help because we'd like to improve our sound quality and get distributed on more podcast networks. But that said, I fully support the Wounded Warrior Project. If you can't support us, if you can't support us today, or you can't support both, give them some money today. They could really use some, and they do. From everything I've seen, they're a very respectable charity, very well reviewed by, as you can see, they're an accredited charity by the Better Business Bureau, and they've been around for a number of years. I know who they are, so I definitely support them. In the comments, I say we have Lionel says, I know someone that went to war and claims that while he served with all his heart to the country, he wouldn't do it again. He lost a lot of stuff on it and has problems nowadays to get a proper job. Yeah, that's actually really common. There
Yeah,
are some guys who
I
love
would agree.
there are some guys who love being in the service and never want to leave, but they're few and far between. A whole lot of guys. I've known Vietnam veterans and onward veterans of every major conflict. Even met some Korean and World War II veterans, and especially from like Vietnam on, most veterans have a very mixed opinion, mixed feeling. Some are proud of their service, but they still look and they see a lot bad. They do. A lot of them come home. One of the more common things that happens to them is that they will come home and find out that they've been divorced, or they will come home. They will know that their wife has divorced them, but then they will come home and find out that they are behind in arrears on child support and maintenance payments they never even knew they owed. Some of them
Yep.
go to jail because of it right after coming home. Some of them are in jail now. It's
And the
disgusting.
The Wounded Warrior Project has been known to help in circumstances like that too, especially those who have been injured during war and are not able or have been completely disabled and aren't able to make those payments due to the disability of them being injured in war. I mean, that's something else too that I really love and respect about this group. I mean, not only do they care about the actual veteran themselves, but it's their families too, like whether it be their immediate families or or people that are taking care of them. I mean, that's something ultimately with this website. I can't say that we I can't stress this enough, guys. I mean, double your donation. I mean, you give $100, there's $200 going to help these families,
There you go.
which is awesome. I mean, you give $1, that's $2, and every dollar counts. I mean, if I were in a situation and I ended up losing a limb or two, fighting for my country, a project or a charity like this would be something that I would be dependent upon, especially if I lost my entire family and lost everything, and then of course got injured to the point to where I can't support myself like that anymore. I can't support my kids. Something like this would be a godsend to me. Being in that situation.
Sure, it would. Sami Raza says that the U.S. could use a jobs training program for veterans. That could be a solution. I go back and forth on that sort of thing. I mean, we could use jobs training programs for all kinds of things, whether veterans or not. I mean, I'm of the opinion that we should do a lot to reopen trade schools. Instead of pushing everybody through high school, there's a lot of people who would do much better in life if they earned a trade.
Right. Well,
And
the thing is, in the military too. I mean, granted, if you're essentially like a grunt, if you will, or a jarhead, or depending on the branch that you go to, you do have access to educational tools. But the issue with that is too, if you get injured in the line of duty while you're going to school, you can't finish your degree in the military because you're going to be honorably discharged. So I can see where the issue with that would be. So ultimately, though, I mean, the jobs training thing on my end, I would 100% support, due to the fact that if there is somebody who's able-bodied, they would be able to go through and actually earn a trade that would be able to help them support themselves. And that's something that I'm sure that there's probably a charity out there or something like that where there's somebody working on something this way. I'm sure that there is. I mean, granted, I don't know personally, but me on my end, I ultimately I'm a firm supporter of the troops. Love me or hate me for it. So
Well, the thing is, I find guys who served in the military usually really cool to hang out with,
yeah.
and I had family, both, on my mother's side and my stepfather, so I mean, I knew multiple Vietnam vets growing up. I just kind of grew up around people who are veterans or military. So I never served. I thought about it a few times. I actually had members of the military, I actually had veterans talk me out of joining the military a couple times. One really
Oh,
vociferously, um,
right.
because he was saying that you can serve your country better ways than that. I mean, so I will notice that while some on Memorial Day, some people get very patriotic and say it's a great thing to go in the service and that it improves your life. Some people say that, but it's also worth knowing there's a lot of guys who go and are like, I would not do that again, or maybe I got benefit out of that, but it was also terrible in a lot of ways, or
Right.
but,
Well,
and
with
all of that is part of the veteran experience. Good or bad, whatever your experience as a veteran is a good day to remember what those are. And it's actually a good time to talk to veterans. If you've never met a veteran, meet one and ask him about his experiences, good or bad. You might find out his politics are left wing or right wing or anarchist or libertarian. He might be religious or not. He might have loved his military service. He might have hated it, but he might be somewhere in between. But he'll definitely have interesting stories. And
yeah, my grandfather, like I have family that was in the military. My grandfather on my father's side served in World War II. He was initially supposed, or he joined the Navy before he could get drafted, and the naval base was too full, and he ended up getting transferred to the U.S. Marine Corps base or Camp Pendleton there in California, and ended up undergoing USMC training as a as a sailor because there wasn't any more room on the sailor base for basic training, and was essentially trained to protect the boats that were actually bringing tanks or whatever onto the beach during the invasion of Truk Island in Japan. So he was a part of that whole raid, and it was then that they learned that they needed two boats per tank, so that like as soon as the first one started sinking, they could drive it up onto the next one, to get it to the beach. I mean, he saw all that happen, with his own eyes. I mean, and they worked with what they had. I mean, obviously it was a different time period. I have a great uncle on my mom's side who was a Vietnam vet. Told me all kinds of crazy stuff that happened in Vietnam and the, Agent Orange and seeing what was going on with all of that. I have two of my uncles on my mom's side served in Desert Shield and Desert Storm. So I mean, I'm very aware of what's happened, and now, granted, it was those people that convinced me at the time that I should go and that I should join. I mean, I almost felt like I had to follow in their footsteps, and my
oh, so
ex-wife ended up playing their bullshit games in family court and ended up getting my rights to firearms taken away, and I can't join the service because I have a Lautenberg Amendment attached to my name.
wow.
Otherwise, I would have.
Well, that kind of stuff is. I've run into that too. The military's gotten really weird. But yeah, you can lose your right to serve, your ability to serve for all kinds of things. I guess I kind of get it, but some of it just looks like more ways of disempowering. Um, uh,
Right.
the entire
I
family
kind
court
of agree
system
with
is
that.
set.
Yeah.
The family court is set to do as much as it can to strip every right as possible from men in the system. I mean, women get caught up in it too, but especially men, especially fathers.
Well, the newest statistics that came out in January of 2019, for 2018, stated that 85% of divorces were filed by women, and that only 15% of those cases of those 85% actually went the man's way, and only 5% of those went, equal or 50-50 shared parenting across the nation.
Yeah, and I don't know if we'll ever see that. I mean, I think, I mean, I want to see it. As a guy who did men's rights activist work, and yes, this is a veterans issues, by the way, because most veterans down in the dumps are men, not women, and most people getting screwed in the family courts or by CPS are also men, not
Hmm.
women. Not always, especially CPS. CPS is more of an equal opportunity offender than the family courts, but the bottom line is that we see a whole system here designed to chew guys up from one end to the other. And that does include the military now. Although, you have to be honest, if you play your cards right and things fall mostly your way, you can get out of the military quite a bit in terms of educational and savings and job
Right.
opportunities. But the vast majority of guys go in, serve one or two hitches, come on out, and often have nothing waiting for them when they get back. I know a lot of guys too. They join the military because they have no purpose in life. They come from a crappy family. They went to a crappy school. There's not much in terms of job opportunities where they live. And so they go and they join the military, and the recruiters give them a song and dance. And by the way, it is true. I mean, if you really do play your cards right, you can get a lot of benefit out of a military
Hmm.
service. You really can, but you really got to play your cards right and have some luck and also be of the type who can stand being in the military because not everybody's personality is conducive to being in the military. I
Agreed.
uh,
Agreed. Not everybody is able to do it.
a ton of guys come in there. They get a lot of go in there. They get a lot of promises from the recruiters, but if the promises aren't in writing and are not unambiguous, they wind up getting screwed and not what they wanted. They get shipped someplace they didn't want to be. They wind up in the middle of nowhere being shot at or whatever. It, you know, I'm just generalizing about what I know the military experience to be, good or bad. This is what these people go through, and it's worth knowing it and remembering it. And I don't want to dishonor it, but at the same time, all those guys who also come out and wind up screwed or wind up regretting it, or seeing buddies die and wondering what it was all for. If I want to remember for, I want to remember them too, and the guys who died in some godless horrible conflict. Their family, they're dead. Their families suffered that loss in many cases, and I say a prayer for them, and I say a prayer for those families, and that's
Yeah, so yeah, fallen heroes as well. Yeah, thoughts and prayers as well on my end. For anybody that might know somebody, or at least know of a family. I mean, they're definitely in my thoughts and prayers tonight as well.
yeah, exactly. Someone says,
So
"God bless our troops." Yeah, I agree. Although, do remember too, uh, there are people who hate our troops because our troops have gone and done bad things in their countries. And the only thing I would say, even to them, is remember, this entire world is run by evil forces who manipulate the military as much as anybody else. You know what I mean?
well, here's a question that I'm going to go ahead and I challenge anybody listening to this podcast right now. So yeah, let's say, for example, with the Iraqi war, I want you to place yourself in a situation, okay? And I'm borrowing this example from a story I heard from somebody that I worked with here in the oil industry who was over there and actually served. He said, you're up on a hill, you got your rifle, right? Everything is going 100%, perfect, and all of a sudden a big shit fight just from out of nowhere just breaks out. And the reason why the shit fight breaks out is because there's a woman who was walking down the street who clearly looks pregnant. There's a bunch of innocent bystanders that are there. You step up because you are told, to go down, to make sure that at the people or whatever are out of the way of this possible threat that's right in front of you. This threat being that where her stomach is at is actually a set of bombs that are actually attached to her stomach and made to look like she is a pregnant female. Okay. But that bomb goes off, you have thousands of innocent men, women, and children who have nothing to do with that war or that fight, that are there ready to blow themselves up because they were told to, or held at gunpoint, by the soldiers that were there. You have a choice that's ahead of you. Either take her out and to stop her from taking out that site or using that possible bomb that they might have, you know, or step back, let her take out thousands of innocent people that are already there. Let her do that and have the image of her blowing herself up and killing God knows how many innocent people around her because you didn't step up and do anything right, knowing that if you went home and that story got out, that you yourself are going to be spit on, just like the people that had happened over there in Vietnam. You're going to be hated. You're going to be labeled, right? Now, second situation, just like it, what happens if that's a 6-year-old little boy and he's got a couple of grenades in his hands and he's running straight for you and your guys? What are you going to do in that situation? You going to let him run up close to you guys and kill all of you for the sake of saving face? Or are you going to sit there and do what needs to be done to save yourself and to save your men? To anybody that's out there who hates the military, answer me that. What would you do?
Yeah, I'm not sure. What would you do?
I'd pull the trigger. Because if it meant that the people that I work with that are watching my back, okay, me personally, if the people were watching my back were there and they're dependent on me to watch their back,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd do it. And I know full well that my psyche would obviously, or
Yeah.
that would affect me for the rest of my life, knowing that I took out a kid to save myself and to save my men. For sure. Like no matter what, the kid's gonna die anyway.
Yeah.
Like
I
so there's the situation there. Okay. So but secondly, knowing full well that if my guys don't come home, it for me it wouldn't be about myself, it would be about the people that I'm with, them vice versa. The guy next to me, he's looking out for me, he's not looking out for himself. That his job is to protect me, I'm there to protect him. And the part that I would struggle the most with, that if I had to choose between psychological damage or my guys or my men that are with me being killed, I'd rather deal with the psychological damage. Like if I had to choose, I would.
Of course. And I think that's the choice most would actually make. It's tragic. And I will say, I will go out on the record. I really, truly believe the U.S. military machine is involved in a whole lot of evil. And I think a lot of guys go in, don't realize that, and then they see it when they're in and they get out. I'm not going to run away from the fact that I think a lot of U.S. military activity is nefarious. I simply don't put it on the ground troops. The average American is brainwashed. The average American does not know what their military is doing. The average American has no idea what their own government military is doing most of the time. And most of the guys in the military don't know what's going on until they reach a certain level. And then they only know what's in the zone of, where they were put. They don't know what everything the rest of the military is doing
Yeah,
either.
they don't know what like the huge major plan is. All they know is they're told to go somewhere and to do something. And when stuff goes haywire, that's what they're trained for.
I have
You
known
know,
guys who have been in the military who also gone on to become. The whole thing is a machine, so you can kind of move out of the military and into CIA or ICE or some of other operations that are really paramilitary in nature now. And I've talked to guys who've done special operations work all over the world. Africa, Arabia,
mhm.
Korea, such like that. It is amazing how much the U.S. military machine is doing, and I don't think it's all good by any means. So anybody. Yet at the same time, I'd never shame those who served because they're as much cogs in the machine as anybody else. I tend to believe, really, we are all tools to much greater powers in the world, even beyond the U.S. government. Even the U.S. government is by and large controlled. Um,
Yeah, we call them the deep state.
That's exactly right. And one thing I like about the fact about 2019, about the current year in politics, most of our lives, if you talked about there being a secret government and a deep state, everybody would laugh at you and call you a kooky conspiracy nut. And
Mm-hmm.
so you would not even want to think about it. But we've reached a point in our politics where pretty much everybody recognizes that there is a deep state, that there is a secret government that's been running things for a long time. In fact, a survey shows like 80% of Americans believe that, which means at this point, if you're talking about there being a deep state and someone laughs at you, you should laugh back at them and say, why the heck are you in denial? The president of the United States has spoken openly about there being a deep state. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mainstream news publications, including things like the New York Times, have now referenced something like something called the deep state. So at this point, denying that there's a deep state, you're the crazy one and you're the brainwashed one. We have had a secret government running things for decades, often overruling presidents even. Obama
Mm-hmm.
was overruled by the military machine a few times. And most people didn't know that even happened. Trump doesn't even have full control of his own military. There is a deep state, and control of the U.S. military and intelligence apparatus is the most valuable thing they have. And of course, they work with military, with British. They work with Israeli. Um, they work with others. Nobody knows everything our military is up to, and I'm not necessarily celebrating any of it. Anybody who served though was part of this machine. Most of them would have no idea how big that machine was. You know.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, say my thoughts on the deep state. I mean, obviously, we know that that's what's happening. I mean, you can see it. I mean, think about it. In the 1950s, big tobacco, had control. I mean, people were smoking in restaurants and shit. And then suddenly, this big non-tobacco movement or whatever ended up started happening. That was by the opposing side that ended up losing its side near the 1950s. Suddenly they're in control now, and suddenly cigarettes are viewed as a bad thing. Yeah, and this is just an example. I mean, obviously they are large, multi-billion-dollar corporations that obviously pay or donate towards campaigns to put the person that they want in office to be
Oh
their
yeah.
puppet to do exactly what they want. What I love about Trump, though, what I love about Trump is the fact that he himself is a businessman. I wouldn't say that he's not being controlled by the deep state by any means, but I wouldn't say that he necessarily is controlled as much as anybody else that's been in office prior to him.
Yeah, what I would say to that is that I'm having watched carefully. Trump has pissed off a whole lot of deep state people and
Yes, he
really
has.
upset an awful lot of apple carts in general. But it is worth keeping an eye on the fact and keeping in mind that he himself is a billionaire with billionaire friends, and he is in bed with people who have their own political agendas. For
Hmm.
example, some of them are Zionists, not all of them, but I mean that's just one example. It's not that this guy is a saint or is going to make
No,
everything
I'm not
better,
saying he's
but
a saint, and
I
and I tell everybody. I don't mean to interrupt you. I tell everybody this. I support Trump as a president. Do I support Trump as a person? No, I do not. But do I support him as a president? Yes, I do.
well, I have limited support because I think he's done some things, some good things, and some bad things. But I'm on the whole, I will give you that I personally think he's more a force for good than evil. But he's getting us into a lot of evil shit, and I will never deny that. The stuff going on with Syria and Iran is ugly, and
It's true.
it is not good, and it's clear that he's had to compromise. He's had to compromise to get some of his agenda done, but that's what every politician has to do. Um, that just
Well, essentially, though, I mean, I honestly believe that we need to build a wall for sure. 100%. Will I stand behind him on that? Yeah. I was one of those people that actually went in with that massive $1 billion donation that was, there. I was one of many people that came in and helped donate to that obviously, quote unquote, cannot be used, to build the wall, which in my honest opinion was complete and total bullshit. But, hey, I guess that's the name of the game. There were over $1 billion on a GoFundMe account that was put together to build that son of a bitch. And of course, Pelosi and the fucking left got to do everything in their goddamn power to make sure it doesn't happen.
Well,
just to prove it. I mean, if people were willing to put money together to have a fucking wall built of their personal money, their personal donations put together for it, why the fuck isn't that wall being built?
I don't know. I don't exactly know what I think of the wall, except I think it's symbolic of a much bigger fight. And I cannot. It's going to be. It's like we're really in the middle of a civil war. Certainly a cultural civil war, and it's
First, cultural civil war for now, yes, but if there's ever a physical breakout, and I hate to say this because I am a right wing, I am a right wing
too
supporter.
far. Don't go too far and get us in trouble. But
No, no, I'm
bottom
just
line,
saying. But with
yeah.
me, if there was like a physical fight that would break out between the right and the left.
Well, yeah. Don't finish your sentence, okay? I don't want to get us taken out.
I would
But
say we'd essentially lose.
well, I would say that we are in a cultural civil war and a civil war among our elites, and it has broken out into fighting on the streets a few times. And
Hmm.
I'm hoping it doesn't break out worse, but it might. I will simply want to defend myself and my family, and that's and I hope it doesn't come to anything bigger, but I wonder, especially because if you're watching the news right now, it looks like some very prominent Democrats may soon be under criminal investigation and maybe even under arrest for the Russia investigation against Trump, which Trump is openly calling now a coup plot and treason. And names like McCabe and Comey and Strzok
Hmm. Hmm.
and quite of those people may face charges. If they do, people above them will face charges too, and the people above them are really big names. And I predict for you, if and when if it goes higher than that, especially if they start going after and indicting or publicly investigated and even indicting people like Loretta Lynch, what's his name, Skippy Podesta, or even start looking at going after Hillary or Obama, the country is really not going to have a good time. Because no matter what, even if you want to see all those people arrested, there's a big swath of the country that is going to be ready to fight to see them not. Um,
Yeah. So something that's also a big factor in this, I feel people are also overlooking too, is there are currently 2 million people that we know right off the bat the Democrats, can come in and to recruit and to bring in on this. Those 2 million people are the people that are currently incarcerated, like prisons, jails. We'll give you your freedom if you'll go over there and you'll fight these guys. Are we going to be, we as the right wingers, are we going to be prepared for that? And I hate to say this too, but the left is a lot more organized than we are. Way more organized than we are. And they've also got the corner on communication too. So I hate to say it, if a fight were to break out between the two parties, we most likely wouldn't make it
you think so?
ultimately in the long run. I do.
You think people who don't want to be part of the whole globalist, corporatist, secularist, just globalist new world order, you figure we'll lose, huh?
In the long run, I think we would.
Well, look out because something called Agenda 2030 is still in place and is being pushed by a whole lot of people. I don't know why more people don't know about Agenda 2030. If you talk about Agenda 2030, they talk like you're a crazy conspiracy nut, even though it's completely and totally and always real, easy to verify, has accomplished many things already. It's being endorsed by popes and politicians all over the planet. The notion that it's not real is stupid. And if you look into it, all the climate change stuff is part of Agenda 21. All the global migration stuff and the immigrants fleeing and being brought into the US and especially Europe, that's part of Agenda 2030. Most feminist programs around the world are part of Agenda 2030 globally.
That's true.
And,
The most I can do in a situation, like if it comes down to that, is stand and hold my ground as long as I possibly can.
There you go. Hey, we got
That's
a good comment from Lionel. Lionel, he says, a friend of mine, after his experience in the battlefield, claims he felt betrayed by his nation. He found that they were being often lied about stuff. A friend of mine. I respect soldiers for what they had to go through. Yeah, and this is why I'm trying to stay not completely, you know, political on this. I guess you would definitely say my politics are right of center, more what you would call a paleo conservative, though. I do not want America involved in all these international conflicts. I want
I I agree. I would agree with that as well. Yes.
I want the international banks kicked out. I want Hollywood cleaned up, and I want to get out of a lot of our international entanglements. I just don't know if it will happen in our lifetimes. I can pray for it. I can hope for it. And yeah, I don't know what else to say except I think people who served at least have some insight into what's going on that others don't.
Right. Well, I was just saying ultimately in the end though, I mean, I've accepted, the fact that, ultimately in the end, I mean, if you were to compare, the right wing to the left wing, size, as far as the parties, the people, it's like we are at least outnumbered globally 4-1. And like at least 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not trying to necessarily discourage people and say, oh, no matter what, this is going to happen. I mean, granted, anything is completely possible, but these are the facts that I feel people are overlooking ultimately in the long run with it.
Now, well, wait a minute. Let me ask you clarify something you just said there.
Mhm.
We're outnumbered about 4-1. Who's the we and who's the them in this one?
Okay, we would be the right wing, political party.
Uh huh.
The them would be the left wing political party. I mean, right wing conservative, Republican, neo Nazi, so on and so forth. That would be right wing politics
I don't think you're
versus
right. In fact, I think we're the majority. We're just kept out of the press and we're kept out of power.
we say this now. We say this now. But think about this. Who has the corner on communication right now?
Oh, they do. The globalists, for sure.
Right. So if you think about this right, I mean, they're already flexing their power with that, with companies like Facebook and Google. Okay. Like, look at this. It's like we can't essentially say everything that we want to say in this show alone without one either getting demonetized or taken down. So that itself should be proof there. Secondly, when it comes to, I guess you can say, munitions, for example, yeah, we may stockpile, we may do all kinds of stuff like that. But what happens if our group comes together facing not only groups like Antifa and the feminists and of course, Black Lives Matter, they all collectively, or the LGBT, who support the left wing, group, plus the 2 million people that are incarcerated. You know what I mean? So the left is a lot more organized than we are, and I will admit that full heartedly. Now, granted, I'm a right wing supporter, and I recognize this. Now, granted, we could use like small wave communications like ham radio for sure, but all of those signals can be intercepted.
They can be intercepted and monitored. I don't
Right.
know. I'm
We've
fairly.
also got with there's also satellites and stuff that are up there, okay, in space, that can locate anybody anywhere at any time. Plus the very devices that we talk to ourselves on, these smartphones and stuff like that, can be tracked. Credit cards
Oh,
can be tracked. The very computer that is on the inside of your vehicles, that can be tracked.
in fact, people have no idea the extent to which under we are already in a universal surveillance society. Uh,
Exactly.
it and all your computers and your phones and your tablets are also spy
Yeah.
devices.
Yeah, said
Every single
your
one of them.
cameras are being used on you. When it's like, and you don't even know about it. Your mics are constantly listening. I actually did an experiment with these mics myself. Like I turned my phone screen off and everything, and I held my phone, like up near my mouth,
Yeah.
and I started talking about dog Kongs and how I needed to, to get a dog Kong or a dog toy for my dog. You know what I mean? And then I moved my phone away, and was talking to a buddy of mine who was, I'd say maybe 10 or 15 feet away from the phone. One of the things that I wanted to do in my life, was I wanted to buy a van, and I wanted to convert it into a camper, and drive across the United States, just kind of go nowhere, and just find adventure, that way. What's crazy was I started getting ads everywhere about dog toys and vans for sale.
Hmm.
Like I was getting, ads and stuff from Home Depot for
Oh yeah.
supplies and stuff that would help me with my van conversion.
Let me tell
And
you
and
things. Let me tell you, a lot of people have done this. This is now an open secret. There, you will find videos out there that try to deny this is going on, and they're lying. Okay, there's
Mhm.
a number of sites you can go check, and you can run the experiments just like Riggs just did here. You can do it. If you have a microphone, you're being listened to. And by the way, it can be turned on and you can be listened to without the little light going on to tell you that it's on, that it's watching you or listening to you.
Exactly.
There are viruses that can do that to you. So there's
There's
infections you
malware,
can
yeah.
get, and there's also ways that people at the phone companies and at the big social media companies can do it too. And it may technically be illegal, but they can do it, and they do it, and there's no stopping them. If you're on Facebook, you're on.
Actually, it is not illegal in any way. Post 9/11 with the Patriot Act, they
Fine.
can come in, listen at any time. They can watch at any time.
Yeah, without I'm just going to say using it against you in court gets tricky, but they can use it against you
Right.
so many other ways is the problem. And yeah, if you're on
Exactly.
Facebook, Facebook is spying on you. If you're on Twitter, Twitter is spying on you. If you're on
Hmm.
YouTube or Google and you're signed into your Google account or you use this Google store, Google is spying on you. There's a myth that's really widespread that cryptocurrency is not traceable, that things like Bitcoin and other crypto are not traceable.
Bullshit.
Bullshit lie. They are all, in fact, the exchanges are controlled by the international banks, and they're all fully traceable. I mean, it's not. That's not to say you shouldn't use crypto, but don't believe that it's giving you any real privacy. There's some ways to have some private transactions, but it's actually really hard. All your transactions can be traced through any crypto. And even to have the crypto be anonymous, you have to do dozens of things to make sure it stays anonymous, and you can still be traced most of the time. We're in
That and
universal
the and
surveillance society now.
as far as the currency itself, like when you have possession of it, I don't think it can necessarily be tracked there. However, the virtual wallet that you keep that cryptocurrency in
Hmm.
can be.
Yep, and the exchanges you make. So once you're out there and
Yep.
start buying things, you can totally be
Hmm.
traced. You can totally be traced. A lot of us even think the whole crypto thing was a head fake because it was like sold to so many people as this non-government, get away from the central banks, private, anonymous, BS. Basically,
Yeah.
you can anonymize the transactions, but it's really a lot of work.
I have kind of a theory when it comes to cryptocurrency, actually.
Mm.
Call me crazy, call me weird, call me whatever. It's like I actually think cryptocurrency was created by those large international banks, and they try to come out there and say this like that it wasn't, that it was actually private. And when the new world order comes in and takes over, everything will be cryptocurrency.
I actually completely endorse your theory. It's my theory too. It's totally been my theory for a while, and I've had people tell me I'm crazy. But dudes, I'm telling you, if you go, you can read publications, technical publications that talk about what's going on in crypto, that tell you openly that it's totally traceable, it's totally trackable, and it can in fact be monitored and manipulated by the big banks. Then you go read something like Forbes magazine, or they recently had a story in Forbes magazine. I'll find it if somebody cares, talking about crypto as if it's a big threat to the big banks and its anonymous nature and it's wild and it's uncontrolled and the banks are scared of it. They're lying to our faces. They've done it for years. They will
Well, here's
actually
the
trick
biggest.
people. They'll trick
Right.
people. The whole crypto thing. Mind you, I'm not against using crypto. We're going to have to for the most part, but it was a head fake. Just like I think the whole internet was a head fake. They knew they were going to take control of the internet, but for years they used to tell us things like the internet is the censorship free zone. The internet detects censorship as damage and routes around it. The internet is the ultimate free speech platform. That was a lie too. The people who helped build the internet, who were all about the freedom, were all sidelined and are gone now for the most part.
Right, but here's something too I want to go ahead and bring up as well. Okay, and something I feel is also being overlooked. Who is it that's exactly in control of the exchange rate when it comes to cryptocurrency?
Oh, well, for the most part, it floats. However, what they're not, what the crypto, theoretically, a government can't control it because it can't be artificially inflated. How, you can't just print more coins. So it can't be manipulated in the traditional ways. However, governments and banks can easily manipulate it the old-fashioned way. They buy a lot of it and hold it, or they
That's true.
selectively buy and release it, so they can buy a ton of it and sit on it forever. Then they can dump it on the market all of a sudden to cause disruptions, or they can buy a ton of it to cause it to inflate. The banks can easily buy or sell crypto coins in order to manipulate that crypto market, whether it's
Right.
Bitcoin or any of the others. Just like
Here's another question though.
You could corner
Yeah.
the gold market the same way by controlling most of the world's gold.
Right. Here's the next question though. Who invented Bitcoin? Who invented cryptocurrency?
I'm not sure I remember, but I bet if we
Exactly. Exactly. That's the point. You don't know the source. You don't know who actually made it and who themselves or who themselves is the ones that's actually putting it out there. So if it was supposedly, created to, liberate yourself from these banks and you can exchange cryptocurrency for real money at a certain rate, who decides what that rate is? The fucking banks.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So no matter what,
it does float like other currencies float, but in the end, yes, what you're saying is right. The banks can totally manipulate it. So can
the banks or whatever can come in and say, oh hey, Bitcoin's no longer worth anything. Well, you can only exchange Bitcoin, dollar for dollar now.
Well,
They can decide that at any time.
I don't know that they could do that. I don't know that they could do that because they might have blockades and other exchanges might set up to do that. But
right, but Bitcoin is not the only cryptocurrency on the market.
By the way, there are names you could look at that are associated with the creation of Bitcoin. I know a lot of it came out of a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto. It was described in some papers. Then some computer people like Hal Finney and others got involved in developing software for it. But really, its beginnings are kind of murky. They act like it's just this sort of spontaneous thing. But I'm pretty sure people tied with the international finance system have been wanting to the international finance system has wanted the world to be on electronic currency for decades. And so this whole thing on Bitcoin to me looks like oh, please don't throw me in that prior patch. Oh, please don't go to get those Bitcoins. Those crypto coins will totally threaten our power. Those crypto coins will totally not be traceable by us. It will let people have control outside of us. Please don't go to the Bitcoins. And I'm thinking, yeah, that was their strategy all along. Make them think that they're afraid of Bitcoins when they actually do want us all on electronic currency.
Exactly.
They want 100% of the population on that. So what better way to do it than to get the independent thinkers to fool them into thinking that they're adopting something that's going to give them some independence when it actually just embeds them closer into the system. I mean, I'm one of those radicals, and it'll probably never happen. I think that America and other countries, America will never be truly free until it has a national bank and kicks out the international banks. But anybody who tries that gets killed. And gets treated like gets told they're crazy and killed. But
right. Let me guess. Suicide, right? But there's 2 bullet wounds in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a total suicide. Even though the entry wounds, there's 2 of them on the back of the head.
Just about every president who's fought the banks has wound up dead or near dead. Even Andrew Jackson, who fought the banks, only was somewhat successful about them, and even he got shot at. And, you know, I mean, I know we've gone kind of far afield here, but it is true. A lot of our veterans don't realize they were in wars to fight things that the international bankers wanted.
It's true.
And once you see
I would
that,
agree with that.
yeah, it really is. It's so sad, especially not just the American military either, but a lot. So, okay, you know what? We've been going about an hour. I think it's time to wrap this up. I really enjoyed talking to you, Riggs. I hope we're going to have you on another show again soon.
Hell yeah.
How's your own project to start a radio station going? Let us know.
Everything is going smoothly with it so far. It's looking like, maybe a week or two out so far. We initially did some microphone and sound testing today as far as working out our bugs. We're actually going to be doing the actual broadcasting and music, or music broadcasting, bugs. We're going to be working all that out tomorrow, I believe. In this case, it'd be Tuesday. So on Tuesday, we're going to be doing a bunch of musical or music broadcasting, bug work. So we're going to work all that out. And as soon as we do, I'm going to collectively get everybody that I need on the show together. And then, of course, launch, on a specific day that works best for everybody.
Announced. All right, everybody. Well, we'll keep everybody in the Red Pill Religion audience aware of what Riggs is up to. He's a hardcore MGTOW and he likes his heavy metal, but
Hell yeah, I do.
We can enjoy that stuff too. So we'll let you know what he's up to. Otherwise, please remember we are here every night. We got John C. Wright coming up on Wednesday. We got interviews lined up every night. We're probably going to do a nerd stream for Memorial Day evening tomorrow. We'll see, but we're here every night.
Ooh, I think I'm going to be there for that because I'm a nerd.
Well, we'll be talking about science fiction and Avengers movies and manga and all that crap. So, all right, everybody. Well, please give us a like. Please give us a subscribe. Please check us out on redpillreligion.com. Please click our fundraiser and help us raise $1,000 for the Freedom from Atheism Foundation and to get ourselves some better mics and better platforms for distributing our content. So, God bless everybody.